Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson, and this is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
So tonight we'll be reviewing an oldie, which hasn't been around. We haven't done in a while. So it's called The Ghost Breakers, which was released in 1940.
I'm quite relieved. I've been at Sarah for a long time to do something old. And 1940, that's pretty good. That's even in black and white.
What a good year for old black and white movies.
Okay, well, here we go. We have got The Ghost Breakers, 1940 American mystery horror comedy film. So it fits the genre quite nicely.
Right.
Produced by Arthur Hornblow Jr., directed by George Marshall. I know his name from different movies.
Yep.
Screenplay by Walter de Leon. I think I've seen his name recently, too, and something I've done recently. Mm-hmm. Now, it was based on the Ghostbreaker play that was done in 1909 by Paul Dickey and Charles Goddard. Now, it's been made, but prior to this, there was two silent movies made. 1909. 1909 was written, but within a couple of years, there's the dates. I haven't got the dates.
I have the dates right here for you, man. I was telling Mike this before we sat down, a little brief storyline for it. The first one was released in 1914, which was directed by Cecil B. DeMille.
Yeah, here it is.
And the next one is done in 1922. And after this one, which was released in 1940, let me see, this would be
1953.
13 years later, I think it was.
Yeah.
They made another remake
called Scared Stiff,
with Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis,
which was a poor reflection of the movie.
Yeah, you may have heard us mention it several times in the past about how the directors or the producers wanted to make a remake of the Ghostbreakers, but even Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis frowned upon that idea, but they were still forced into it.
They didn't think they could do the movie justice. They thought Bob Hope's version was a really, really good movie, but because they were tied to the studio and said, you have a contract with us to make so many movies, you're going to make this movie whether you like it or not. Yeah. So they used the
old dialogue
from the Bob Hope movie. They changed a bit to suit the music-y side. They brought in using Dean Martin's singing. They put a few tunes in. They made it a bit cheesy. Yeah. And a few things like that. And then they divided Bob Hope's lines up in between Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis.
Which was a mess.
It didn't work. Sorry, but we're not reviewing that movie. We're reviewing the good movie, The Ghostbreakers.
Yeah, I thought I might bounce off that one with Bob Hope.
We will mention it lightly when we go into it, but yeah, this is the Bob Hope version, which I feel is great.
Yes.
I'm not going to go through lots and lots of different people here. However, the main people... sorry, before I do that, budget and box office figures are unknown. However... the critics loved it, so chances are the box office reflected that as well. Okay. Now, Bob Hope plays Larry Lawrence, or actually his name is Lawrence, because his mother kept calling him Lawrence or whatever. Yeah. Anyway.
They weren't creative with names.
Paulette Goddard, she's a cutie pie. Even by today's standards, I think she's really cute. Plays Mary Carter. She's the main female lead and potential love interest of Bob Hope.
Yes.
Richard Carlson plays a really nice guy, but he's actually a naughty guy. I won't go into it too much. We do have a bit of a cameo, not a cameo, a short bit. Anthony Quinn plays a double role. He plays twin brothers.
Yeah.
Ramon Menderos and Francisco Menderos.
I gotta admit, I do like Anthony Quinn. He does good acting, and I thought with him in it, it kind of made the story a little bit more interesting.
Anthony Quinn, I think, is South American. I don't know what country he came from, Mexican or Puerto Rico, or wherever he came from. He came up to New York or San Francisco, wherever he came up to get work, and he had a really bad accent. So they sent him to elocution classes, and he ended up getting into a drama class. And because he liked the drama side of it, he got into acting, and then he dropped off the whatever he's working on, became an actor, and it all just goes on and on and on. But he's played Mexicans, he's played Greeks, he's played whatever. He's in the shoes of the fisherman. I think he's a Polish Pope or something. Right?
Yeah.
He just played so many different roles.
That's what I like about
an
him.
Accent. Yeah,
I
really
mean,
good.
back then, I guess he would just be just like any other actor, but
he was your token guy with an accent.
Yeah. And I thought he made this this movie.
Oh, he had a good presence even back in those days for a bit part.
The other guy who was in Scared Stiff didn't really pull it off. He seemed to blam. But I won't go into those details about that.
We're not talking about the other movie.
As I said before, I was going to bring it up in between discussing Ghost Breakers because to make comparisons to the movies.
Anyway, I will mention one other person. Bob Hope has a valet who works with him.
Yes.
His name's Alex, played by Willie Best. Now, a lot of you younger people might not know Willie Best. Some of you older people will. He's always played a slow, dim-witted Afro-American servant type guy.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the Afro-American community think it's an insult. He's always... It makes him look dumb, but that he was a comedian doing a dumb role.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. He didn't mind doing it. He was in a lot of movies, and he made a lot of money out of it, or whatever. And he was well regarded in the industry.
Quoting the line from a lady I know from Gone with the Wind,
Hattie, whatever her name is. Yeah.
She would, as I said, she would rather play a servant than be a servant.
Yeah, because you make more money actually acting and pretending than actually doing it and getting nothing. So,
I don't know what the acting cost for co-stars back those days, but it would have been a lot more.
He would have been paid, and he might have had a day job as well, but he enjoyed acting, so he did what he had to do, and he was a comedy relief. So whatever. Anyway, he did a really good job, and actually well respected for his job with this movie. So.
And Bob Hope respected him. He kind of liked him.
Yeah, Bob Hope and Bob Hope was a white guy. So there you go then.
Yeah.
Anyway, before you tell the story, I can't think of anything else.
Yeah, sadly, whenever we do an oldie like this,
sometimes you can't get a lot of information.
You may not get enough reception, or you may get zero box office details.
Yeah, and budgets and whatever. But all I can say is, these early movies, they're pretty simple or fun movies, but I think we've lost something over the years. We've tried to make them too complicated. We've tried to put too much into a storyline sometimes. And sometimes you actually lose the plot of the movie by putting too much in. This travels along really nicely. It's fun. It's the continuity works really, really good with it. Everything works. It's a really, really good film.
And Mike, you may hate me for this, but I'll mention Scare Stiff before we go on about how they tried to push so much stuff, cram so much of stuff in it. Aside from the old dialogue that Bob Hope says in this Ghost Breakers, they also try to cram their own funny bits and a little bit more of a bit of the storyline. Storyline in that too.
Can we talk about after you tell the story?
Sure.
Oh, look, okay. I'll say one thing. When they made Scared Stiff, now, in this movie, where you got Bob Hope and his valet, Bob Hope is, when the story goes, we'll tell it in a minute, but Bob Hope hides in a lady's travelling trunk, which goes to the boat harbour to go onto the boat because the lady's going to South America, right? Cuba. Now, the point is, he was supposed to be in there because he's hiding from a criminal, okay? In the Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis film, Dean Martin is hiding in the travelling trunk to get away from the killer. Now, when they get to the dock, where the boat is, outside the boat, they open it up, and he gets out, and Jerry gets in, and Dean Martin walks on the boat. So how is he supposed to be hiding from the criminals who's hanging around the boat by just walking on with the lady? So right in the beginning of the Scared Stiff, they lost the plot. Yeah. They just changed things, and it didn't make sense. Little things.
Yeah, I think when at the time when they were writing the script or trying their best to make it as good, they probably they kind of lost the plot about the fact he's being chased down by the Mafia guys.
Yeah, so Dean should have been in the box, and Jerry should have walked on the boat with the lady.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to check your boxes, check where everyone is in a production, and know who's the one who's in deep trouble.
But it broke down just then. Just that one scene, and then it fell apart from there on.
Yeah.
And they threw a song in at the beginning.
Song in the
and
middle.
A song in the middle.
There's
three songs, wasn't there?
Yeah, three songs, or at least...
You're always going to get a song in a Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis movie.
about three scenes that take place in either a cafe or a bar or...
And actually, Carmen Miranda was actually...
somewhere.
I did mention her's only a bit part in it, but I think she died shortly after this movie too.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway,
I guess they wanted to include as many and many famous dancers and singers.
Well, they did that for these musicals. Yeah. Anyway, we're not reviewing that movie anyway. We're reviewing this movie, which is a better movie. So we will not talk about Scared Stiff ever again.
No. We will mention it in passing at the end.
Now,
so,
go and tell the story.
So I'll begin. The story starts in a very dark and stormy night. I know that sounds like something out of Snoopy, but it was a dark and stormy night. And a lady named Mary Carter, who's not related to Nick Carter or Howard Carter, not that I'm aware of, is just inherited a very big mansion in Cuba.
Yes.
I mean, not mansion, castle or something.
Castle on a little island called what?
Castle of...
Dark Island?
Dark Island.
Dark Island. What a great name.
Oh, yes. Anyway, her solicitor and I guess another guy who's going to sign her the deed to the property.
Yeah, all the legal papers.
Legal papers, stuff like that. It's also a blackout, meaning the whole place is pitch black.
Yeah, there's a big storm going on, yeah.
And a lot of lightning. You see the lightning, like really cool. Yeah. It looks like the lightning is close to the city.
Armageddon, here we come.
Yes. Anyway, meanwhile, Bob Hope's character, his name is
Lawrence Lawrence or Larry Lawrence?
He's a radio announcer guy.
No, he has a radio show.
And
he's talking about criminal activities of some criminal guy.
He got into big trouble.
What's his name?
Frenchie
Duval.
Frenchie Duval, who owns a franchise of baby laundries. Yeah. And he then blabs something on that he shouldn't blab on the radio.
Yeah, about laundry money and different
things.
And
they want to put it to him straight. If not, and give him a sort of concrete slippers.
Maybe.
By the sounds of it, it seems like it's going to head in that direction.
That was implied.
Anyway, so him and his valet are going to go on vacation. So as they're heading inside the hotel, he's got a gun, of course, because his valet suggests that seeing as he's going to be meeting with the guy who told him to keep it
just take a gun just in case.
Yeah, we ran into several people in the hallway, and then we see which brother was it, Mike?
Ramon, I think.
Ramon. Who gets shot down by the guy who signed the deed to Mary earlier, and for a moment we think it's Loris who's the culprit, but eventually runs into Mary's room and tries to explain to her that he thinks he shot the person accidentally, but it does get a little funny with the dialogue here, because it's really funny with the dialogue in this scene, because he really knows how to carry the lines in this production.
Bob Hope was always good.
Yeah. Anyway, he eventually tries to hide from the police and hides inside Mary's suitcase, which is what we mentioned earlier.
Not a suitcase, travelling trunk.
A travelling trunk,
He's not a ventriloquist doll, he's a human being,
Okay, don't rub it in. Okay, a trunk. So he climbs in. We don't see him climb in. We just assume he's hiding under the bed or in the closet.
Yeah.
And Mary notices his checkered scarf, dotted scarf that he carried with him when he was in the hallway, and she was worried that that would incriminate, and most likely the policeman will pick up that he is in there. But luckily enough, his valet, Alex, was able to pick up the scarf and hide it.
Yep.
Anyway, soon enough, the what was it? What's it called? Oh yeah, a bellboy kind of picks up her trunk and takes it out to the pier.
Well, yeah, there must be a truck downstairs to take the luggage to the pier. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, she notices her dresses, which she packed carefully, have been removed from the trunk and
thrown under the bed. Uh-huh.
And there is where they start pinpointing that he is hidden inside the trunk. So quickly, Alex heads down to the pier to try to find the trunk. Of course, we get a few funny bits in this scene.
Yeah, he's calling out, and obviously Bob Hope answers him, and there's a drunk coming past and thinking that Alex is ventriloquist.
It's funny.
Make the trunk talk again. Yeah, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's a funny scene. And then again, and he also was planning on, if he didn't plan on letting Alex just do more of it, he was going to kick the trunk into the ocean. That's what he says. Yeah. Anyway, but luckily enough, in his drunken state, he ends up moving around and ending up talking to another man. I won't go into the details there. Anyway, the boat attendants start loading the trunk along some other trunks onto the boat, and then they load the trunk into her room. And
nice stateroom. Well, yeah, it's not like your normal little one like a twin share. It's a really nice room.
Yeah, nice. Anyway, he gets out and his legs are wobbly.
He's been stuck in the trunk too long. Yeah.
And he tries to get Alex to help him get his legs back into order. It's
funny.
funny.
Every morning.
It's like looking at a monkey with an organ grinder.
Yeah, he said that. You made a reference to that. Yeah.
It's funny.
He couldn't straighten his legs up. Yeah.
Soon enough, he lands on the bed, and soon enough, his legs quickly get back to working order.
Yeah.
Anyway, but then he soon realizes that it's too late. The boat is on its course, heading out of the harbour, and it's too late to jump ship.
Jump ship?
Jump ship or leave ship.
Leave the ship.
And we also find out from a note that Mary got that she gets a note that says death that awaits you on the so-and-so island.
Ooh.
So it looks like dear old Laurie realizes that he has to jump in and save the day, if you will.
So he goes to Cuba with her to be her protector and possible love interest.
Yeah, there's some interesting lovey-dovey moments in this. No, there's no sex in this.
No, yeah. See, back in those days, you didn't need a sex scene to make a good movie.
Yeah. Anyway, he eventually, they nearly came close to someone trying to bump him off or try to bump both Mary and him off because they end up throwing a tub of fire water in their direction.
Well, one of those,
buckets.
A bucket of sand.
Bucket of sand or water.
That you use to put fires out with.
Okay, a bucket of sand.
Yeah, another bucket of water.
Anyway, he nearly comes close to hitting them, but unfortunately they were able to avoid it. But he couldn't find the individual who did the throwing.
I have no idea. Yeah. Well, we have no idea. Yeah.
They head back to the cabin, and there we discussed more about what's going to happen, and they have a bit of a funny moment. It's kind of funny when you think about it. He then heads out, and he leaves his manservant to look after her. They kind of tossed a coin, if you will.
So who goes on a night shift to protect her? Yeah, guard her room.
Yeah, I think he was disappointed that he didn't do the night shift.
Well, he said, we flipped, I lost, and his servant had to stay up all night outside the porthole, freezing. Who lost?
I don't know. Anyway, the next morning they're arriving in Cuba, and they're reading the guidebook, and it's kind of funny, this bit.
That would go on. Just get over it.
I know, but it's funny.
It's a bit of a gag they use.
Yeah.
You know those little fold-out things, the brochures, and telling about different places, and you read and get to the bottom of the page, and you flip over the page, and it's talking about something different. Hasn't been printed properly. So it's a sight gag. It's okay.
Anyway, then she runs into an old friend, I guess, who's come to Cuba for reasons, and she's also discovered at the same time this weird little feathery thing attached to her door.
Ugana or something?
Some kind of
It's a little evil trinket. It can be made by a witch doctor for good purposes or evil purposes.
Yeah.
A wonga or something? Or,
yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, so kind of witch doctor...
so it's a bad one.
Voodoo stuff.
A trinket of evil tidings. How's that?
Yeah.
Good?
Anyway, we then learned that later on in this scene that about that the castle and the lands are guarded by or looked after by a caretaker who's actually a witch doctor or a witch.
No, she's not a witch doctor.
She practices voodoo.
She might do a bit of voodoo, but her son is a zombie, and she's the zombie's mummy.
Yes.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, what a
Very
drag. Good. Being as the story goes. In the dialogue goes that this person has no will of his own. This zombie is not like I'll eat your brain type zombies.
Will you please go on with it?
Before the George A. Romero's zombies come to view, zombies back then were pretty much all were creatures just made by witch doctors, yada yada yada. No biting, just simple. The fact they were just created by a mad witch doctor or witch, who knows?
We won't go into it because you don't know anything about zombie lore. I do.
I know.
Let's move on.
So anyway, they offered to go to the nightclub and enjoy some time, but of course, Laurie and his servant have bigger plans. They plan on going to the castle to check it out thoroughly. So they head down there. And they begin to explore it, and there they encounter, a portrait that resembles Mary in every detail, her facial features.
But it's a great-grandmother or something, right? Yeah.
And we also encounter a very creepy ghost. I think this version ghost was really effective and really cool. And at first they didn't think it was a real ghost, but it turns out to be a real one. Anyway, so they wander throughout the place, and let me see. Oh, yeah, Mary does arrive there eventually. She also leaves a note for the guy, her friend, and heads down to the mansion. And she does not many locals are allowed to get close to the island because of the curse.
Not allowed to. They don't want to.
No.
They're scared.
So she only got just halfway, or just a quarter.
She got almost to the shore. But
Okay.
he said, I will not put my boat onto the sand or anywhere near it because it is evil. So she had to swim the last 20 or 30 metres.
Yeah, that wasn't scare stiff, unfortunately. They didn't do any dialogue for that guy in this scene. So anyway, she pretty much dives off and she starts exploring the island. Of course, she hears a voice in the darkness saying, "You must get away. You must go, run. There's something bad that's coming this way," sort of thing. Like the something wicked this way comes, whatever. Anyway, so the zombie starts approaching, and she quickly scatters up the stairs and then makes her way into one of the bedrooms, locks it, and then we see the guy who was the guy who handed over the land appearing at her door, and someone grabbing a hold of him and smothering and pulling him away. And
then she looks out through the little peephole, and
no one's there.
Pretty quick, aren't they?
She begins to get dressed in her great grandmother's clothing. Meanwhile, Laurie and Alex are wandering the hallways, and they encounter a lot of weird stuff, and they can't explain. They also found the catacombs. I think it was. They discover the dead.
It wasn't the catacombs.
Okay.
It was a funeral. It was a burial vault where they interred all the people in the family.
Catacombs, or
it's not the catacombs. Whatever. It's a vault where a bit like in Vincent Price movies and stuff, where you go downstairs, Morella and stuff. The people actually buried inside the castle or the building down in the basement somewhere near a chapel or something. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes. Mausoleum or something. Yeah.
So anyway, they continue through it, and then they encounter the zombie, and he starts attacking them, and eventually Mary appears in wearing her great grandmother's outfit, and she looks exactly like the portrait looks like. She looks so dead on. Anyway, they eventually the zombie is transfixed, and eventually Laurie and Alex were able to push him into another room and lock it.
In a closet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And locking it. And, of course, we find out from the portrait that the portrait is pointing towards the
stairway going down to where the family crypt is, or whatever it is. Yeah, that's the family crypt. That's what it's called. Yeah.
Okay, they end up going in there, and they find a message carved into the rock saying,
something about
God's treasures, something or other. And it deals with something.
Something about keys or something.
Something about keys. We also discover an organ, and it at first
pipe organ. Yeah.
At first we think it doesn't play, but then
we got to pump up the bellows.
Yeah, but somehow it starts playing, and eventually we discover someone inside one of the coffins in the
and
there,
he wasn't quite dead.
It turns out it's the guy who signed her land deed
the lawyer
over.
guy.
Yeah, and he explains to her about the marching men and keys and stuff
he
like that.
He was dying.
Yeah.
He couldn't explain to her.
So he croaks.
Cloak Castle.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, they then work out that the keys were probably the keys on the organ, the piano, and the marching men were some figures on the wall. And they work out that they're actually sort of...
It's musical notation without the lines. So the lady drew the lines. What do you call it? I can't remember what they call it now.
No, that's all right.
Whatever.
I don't even actually know what they're called these days, because I'm not a musical person.
No, I know what they're called. I can't remember what they're called, though.
Anyway.
You have your treble clef and your bass clef, and whatever the lines are called.
Yeah, so...
so they draw some lines through it, and she plays the notes on the keyboard of the organ.
It starts playing, and then a sort of entranceway down the floor starts opening up. And then they go into it, and they discover some tracks there, and indicating
like a mine,
like somehow someone has been down there. Gosh knows how long ago.
There was a lamp on.
Yeah,
a little kerosene
meaning
lamp.
someone has been down there, probably just recently.
Yeah, like
today, and someone has been mining in there.
Considering that place has been abandoned for 20 years.
There we discover. Let's see, what's his name? Francesco. Is that it?
Yeah, that's the other guy. Ramon's brother or Ramon's brother. Yeah,
he appears, and he notices another man appear behind.
Behind them, but Francesco gets shot.
Yeah.
In the arm.
Yeah,
by
and
the other person who comes out.
Turns out to be the guy that Mary knows.
The really nice guy we talked about earlier on, who really
explains
nice.
that he has been forging the silver inside that mine for gosh knows how long, and somehow Ramon and the other guy double-crossed him or tried to
cheat him or something, or he
so
tried to cheat them or something.
Well, he had the guy kill Ramon, and I guess he killed the other guy, so he backstabbed both of them.
Yeah, there's supposed to be a seam of silver running underneath the island there, and he was excavating it. And he wanted to keep it all for himself, as one would. Yeah, what a greedy man.
Laurie tries to beg him to let...
His name's Larry.
Larry.
His name's Laurie.
Well,
Lawrence,
it's
not little women.
Sorry. Lawrence begs that he lets Mary go, but of course the killer always says, no witnesses, therefore everyone has to go.
Yes.
So he begs them to close their eyes, but then before he gets to get a shot at them, a hatch opens up underneath him, and he falls. Crash into water.
The keyboard that Jerry was playing upstairs accidentally opened up the hatch above him. Wrong movie. Alex above his head, and went under him. So I don't know what it was there for, but it was just... and he said something like...
press the wrong button, boss.
Press the wrong button, boss.
Lawrence flips a coin and says, I'll flip you for who's going to faint first.
And they both faint on each other's shoulders. Wow.
Then we watch them later on heading off in a speedboat with Francesco and Alex, and... as they're riding off into... Larry is trying to work out who the unexpected ghost they saw in the before.
Yeah, and Francesca said, no, it's a real ghost.
Yeah, and he And then he goes on to say, well, there's something to think about when we're on our honeymoon. And she begins to wonder, our honeymoon? I'd like to hear more about that.
Yeah.
And then they kiss, and then the movie fades to black.
Isn't that lovely?
The end.
So it's a really, really, really good fun movie. Now, for you guys who may not be into black and white movies, because obviously you're a bit younger than us. Well, you're younger than me. Sarah grew up on colour movies, but
I grew up with black and white too.
There's nothing wrong with the old black and white movies. You don't need colour all the time.
And you don't need to dig deep into the story as much as you can.
No, it's a good story. Everything is there in front of you. You don't need to be a rocket science to understand the plot like some movies.
Yeah.
It's a really good fun. The jokes aren't that stale.
And and it doesn't have to follow the mobsters. The mobsters. They have to do a bit of side story of chasing after him in the series, in the movie.
No, it's just about Bob Hope and the lady, really, centered around them. And there's not too many side stories going on, which made it really easy to follow.
Exactly.
And it was fun. Bob Hope had a unique way of delivering his lines without being stupid about it. He was just a funny man, and he really... how do I say? I don't want to sound like I'm sort of singing his praises too much, but I think he's probably one of the better comedians of our time.
Yeah.
He did so well.
Yeah. And as I said before, Mike said before, that at the time when they did Scared Stiff, they tried to mix Jerry and Lewis and Jerry and Martin to get to say both different parts of the dialogue.
And it didn't work.
No.
So I'm not blaming Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis, but the studio
let them down.
Should have been smart enough. No, they should have been smart to say, this isn't going to work. Make another movie using Martin and Lewis instead of trying to do a remake of a movie which is already better than they can do anyway.
Or at least change the dialogue, to fit the actors.
Make a different movie.
To fit the actors.
Make a different movie. Because they couldn't do it. I mean, they were going to do that, and everyone's going to say, well, 15 or 13 years ago, Bob Hope made the same movie, it was better. So don't make the same movie if you can't do it better.
Yeah, as I said before, Bob Hope delivered the lines. I think that they were made for him and no one else.
I wouldn't know they were made for him, but he delivered them like
he delivered them really well.
Yeah, but they weren't forced to just roll off his tongue.
Unlike Dean, who's not a comedy routine guy type of guy.
He's not really. He wanted to do comedy, but he was not a comedian.
Yeah, not.
So I like Dean Martin. I think he's a great guy too. But I saw Matt Helm movies, that sort of stuff, where it's like a melodrama, come a little bit of comedy. That's great. That's fantastic. He's good for that. But straight comedy, nah. So Jerry Lewis, different type of comedy altogether.
Yeah, slapstick
and
stuff.
And you got Bob Hope just walks there and says, hey, here are my lines, and everyone thinks they're really funny. So, it's three different styles of acting and delivering lines.
It's just like if you threw... I even think to myself, aside from Bob Hope's way of comedy, I think if they had to do a sort of a scare stiff, I would have chosen Abbott and Costello to deliver some of the scenes.
Might have worked.
Considering that they already did their own horror comedy type
they did Frankenstein
productions too.
And Meets Dracula or something. Yeah. They've done that sort of movies for Universal and stuff, but they could have got away with it. But again, if you're copying somebody else's movie, and it was the same dialogue. They didn't even change it too much.
No.
They just changed the bits they had to change. The rest of it was just the same. Let's split that line between those two guys. It just didn't work.
Or the scene between him and the lady in Scare Stiff, which I didn't think she was very... She kind of... Her act dialogue didn't roll off her tongue either. And she was the love interest in Scare Stiff.
The point is, I don't know. Paulette Goddard, I haven't read up on her notes, but she has been in more than one movie with Bob Hope, and there's a good chemistry between those two.
Yeah, they have some good chemistry.
And she's funny in her own way. Not a comedian necessarily, but she's funny, she's cute, and she works really good with Bob Hope. The other lady with Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis movie, she was just an actress doing a job, and it didn't work. She's pretty, good actress, but...
Yeah.
The magic wasn't there.
Yeah, today Mike and I were discussing Red Dwarf.
Red Dwarf,
and how they did the Americans did their own version
And
of
it
Red
didn't
Dwarf,
work.
and it didn't work so well
Because-
because they kind of relied on the acting side, but instead of the comedy side.
Here we go. No, it wasn't that. What happened when Red Dwarf TV series was made in England? All the players, all the actors were comedians, all of them. And now they've come along and said, "Oh, we're going to do it and make it in America."
Yeah.
I don't believe any of the people on the show were comedians, and they're just trying to deliver funny lines, which just died.
Oh, it's us.
It just didn't. Died on its ass. It just did not work because they didn't deliver the lines properly. They weren't funny. And it's not like you cannot say, "Oh, I'm going to make a comedy. You say this line here. It's going to be funny because I wrote it that way."
Yeah.
No, it's all in the delivery, and some people just can't do it.
Yeah, I mean...
Anyway, let's get away from Red Dwarf.
A lot of people have told me this in the past in other scripts. They often write... Certain scriptwriters would say, I sign this dialogue for this actor and only this actor. Anyone else who delivers these lines will not work.
No, I know what you're saying. But some people will write a script with an actor in mind. Yeah, and hopefully the actor will like it.
Yeah, exactly.
And if not, somebody else might be able to deliver the lines, but maybe that's not the person they wanted. It's really hard to be funny.
Yeah, sometimes it's difficult to deliver lines,
It's easy
especially
to
if they're
fall
not
over.
yours.
You're going to fall over, you do slapstick and whatever, but delivering lines, nah.
No.
If you got to be funny, you got to be able to be funny and be natural. And
Yeah.
Bob had it. Anyway, don't worry about it. Let's move on.
Yes.
Various versions. We did mention a few things earlier on, other movies and stuff, but here we go. We know it was a stage play.
Right. I wonder if the stage play was as funny.
It was just two movies, 1914 and by Cecil B. DeMille, and 1922. It was directed by Alfred Green. The film was adapted after this movie. It was adapted for a stage play from Screen Directors Playhouse. That was aired towards the end of the 40s. Bob Hope actually did the voice, and the lady who was his sidekick was played by Shirley Mitchell. She did the Mary role. And then they did a remake called Scared Stiff with Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin. They did want to do the movie, but they're forced into it. We won't go into that anymore. Let's see.
Here's something interesting, Mike.
Yeah.
This film was such a big box office hit that for years after its release, other studios made similar movies in hopes of recapping its doing the same success, trying to make its success successful. Among those copycat films were, in 1941's The Smiling Ghost, a Warner Brothers B movie that starred Alex Smiths and casted Willie Best.
Willie Best again, yeah.
In a role similar to the one he played in Ghostbreakers.
Now here's something. I think you mentioned to me this afternoon. Ghostbreakers was one of the inspirations for the Ghostbusters series of films, whereby Dan Aykroyd wanted to combine the latest research with the Ghostbreaker style of comedy.
Ooh,
There
guys?
you go. So even in today, sort of not today, but when Ghostbusters was being conceived, they thought, wow, Bob Hope and that movie are really inspiring to write Ghostbusters and the subsequent sequels.
Funny thing, guys, when we were watching Scare Stiff, and in one of the bits of the dialogue, in one scene where Dean was introducing himself to one of the guys, that he says instead of being called a ghost breaker, he called themselves Ghostbusters.
And that could have been where Dan Aykroyd got the idea of Ghostbusters from.
Yeah,
Who knows?
So
Don't know.
it could have been the inspiration behind it.
But he got the inspiration from this movie, not the other movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I guess it would have been better calling it Ghostbusters
Ghostbusters
than
sounds
Ghost
better.
Breakers, because Breakers sounds boring.
Anyway,
I mean-
I won't go into reception too much, but everyone liked it. There you go. Well, most people did. Yeah. So
Yeah.
So there you go.
Another interesting thing about the scare stiff. They called the island in that movie
The Lost Island.
Yeah. It doesn't
That's
make
like
sense.
Lost World by Arthur Conan Doyle or something
or
other.
King Kong Lost Island.
Yeah, that sort of stuff.
Because
that
was
dinosaurs were running around, or some prehistoric natives running around.
It would have been if it was called Lost Island. It would not make sense.
Death Island or Dark Island,
or even a Spanish or Cuban name,
or Castillo Island or something,
or even a Latin name, which is kind of cool. You know, things are cool when you use an interesting, name like that.
Yeah, Enchilada Island or something or other.
Yeah, that was from one of the songs from the Scared Stiff thing. Don't ask me why.
Yeah, it's a song called Enchilada. The songs are really bad in the other movie. Don't watch it.
Don't watch it,
this
please.
is a good movie. Now I'm going to get the reception. Everyone liked it, so I did that bit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk too much more about it because there's not much to talk about.
Yeah, sadly enough, we don't have any I don't think we have reception on this one, do we, Mike?
Well, I just said most of them liked it.
Yeah.
That's it. But didn't go into it too much. So that was nice. Really good. Yeah, one of the great finest ghost stories that have been produced for some time.
Who knows when movie reviews started? Years ago.
Oh, they've always had it.
They probably always had it, or they didn't bother finding anyone's. They couldn't find it online.
Someone's got to be able to dig and find it, and some people just couldn't be bothered. Okay, go away.
I was only fortunate to find Ghost Breakers one time. Mike just suggested one time when when I was a few years younger, and I kind of enjoyed watching it the first time.
Hope is funny
and I think that the slapsticks and the comedy humor from Bob Hope and Willie Best were the best to watch.
There's not a lot of slapstick in it.
Okay, not slapstick. It's probably the best word.
Their interaction and stuff.
Their interaction, the dialogue that's rolled off their tongues.
Yeah, it
just
seems so
wonderful.
natural. Willie is, to me, underestimated. No, that's not the word. What's the word I'm looking for?
He's just
he's a good actor. He's a good sidekick to a main actor, and he's undervalued, underappreciated. Yeah, he was a good actor in those roles, and he helped Bob Hope be funny.
Yeah.
If you had a different person doing that role,
I think you'd be
it
disappointed.
may not have worked. So if you get the chemistry, the Willie Best, Bob Hope, and Paula Goddard were a damn fine team. They were really funny as a team.
Yeah, and I did like Anthony Quinn in this.
Good, yeah.
I mean, he has presence about him. The type of presence that make you think, is this guy suspicious?
Is he a good boy or a bad boy?
Is he a bad boy or is he an ally? Is he? Should we support him or should we put
he was a bad guy, but was a good guy.
Or give him the evil eye?
He was a good bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Anyway, here we go. Grading. I'm going to give this.
Okay.
9.5.
I'm going to give this movie 9.5 too.
Yeah.
If I was watching Scared Stiff, I would give it 8.5.
I'd give it 7. Scared Stiff doesn't shape up this movie.
Yeah, it kind of ruins the whole
I do like
story.
Martin Lewis movies, and I do like Jerry Lewis movies, but this one...
George Marshall should have realised that at the time that he was making a big mistake.
But this is the top movie. The other one, Give the Wide Berth. Now, having said that about watching the movie, here we go. Availability.
This would be interesting.
If you are looking, there are still VHS copies out there. Be careful when you buy it. Click on the right buttons. Here we go. eBay, there is plenty for sale. Amazon, plenty for sale. Didn't see any rental. But there might be some other sites you might be able to stream it on or whatever. I can't say anything more apart from it's a good watch. If you can get over the fact it's in black and white, it's a good watch. It's fun.
It's funny, a lot of comedy bits, finally one-liners or few one-liners.
Yeah. Another point, a lot of comedies nowadays rely on, we've got half a dozen people trying to be funny. Right?
Right.
He's a one-man band and he is funny.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah, and all it takes is from him is to say a few lines and get...
And the way he delivers it.
And the way he delivers it. Smoothly, efficiently, and believably.
And believable. And that's what makes a good comedian. It doesn't have to be...
Like one line he says in one scene where he says his name's Lawrence. Like he says that because his family... his parents were not very creative with names.
Yeah, weren't very
it was
creative.
A bit of fun.
Yeah,
it was a
yeah.
bit funny. It was funny, bit of rolling off the tongue, even though it doesn't sound as good from my mouth when I think about it.
It's funny the way he delivers it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I did it, it'd sound boring. But that's
and there's the scene where they're inside her cabin where he's just doing a funny routine for her, and it was funny how he just rolls off
typical Bob Hope stuff. So if you like Bob Hope in the road movies, similar sort of thing, but not quite as funny because this is being a comedy, horror, mystery type thing. It's not just a straight comedy. So the comedy part is dumbed down a bit, but he's still funny.
So they kind of got the comedy and mystery behind it quite on a good balance.
I think it's great.
Anyway, so that's about it for us guys tonight. So be sure to check it out and let us know in the comments what you guys think of this movie.
And I hope this is the beginning of a beautiful relationship with me and Sarah insofar as doing old movies.
Well, as I said before, I'm going to try to get as many old movies as I can and some new ones because a lot of people have told me in the past to review as plenty of new movies as they come through. Yeah,
we're doing it. We're going to do that. We got one we want to do. Probably next will be that new one.
Scream, hopefully.
Scream 4 or 7 or 10, 6, whatever it is.
It's 6,
Yeah,
Mike.
the new one's coming out. Just come out. We're going to do that one.
It just came out just last month. I mean,
so we're going to
by
review
the time
that
this review comes out, it will be already... April, so technically
we're a couple of weeks ahead of
here. So technically, if once you get that review, it will be already April by then.
So but we're going to do some old ones because I mean I don't know the age of the people listening to these podcasts. Now we've got younger people.
Get a mixture of different sizes.
There may be some old movies out there which are flying under the radar and they don't know they exist. That's why I want to do some old movies. Now there are old movies like I would like to do. Forbidden Planet and review that.
Yeah, I want to review that too, Mike.
And Fantastic Voyage. What's the Fantastic Voyage?
Fantastic Voyage. The one from
Raquel Welch.
Raquel Welch.
Marooned.
May she rest in peace.
Marooned. That was the one when they had a space shuttle. It got stuck in space, had to save them. That sort of stuff.
And not the saucer.
No,
that one.
What?
Was it the saucer?
The flying saucer. That one.
Yeah, the one that you said that
there was no flying saucer.
There was no flying saucer in it.
It was more of a travelogue. No. Actually, if I did that one, it wouldn't get a very good rating. No. But there's some really old. I'd say some good old sci-fis and good old horror A and B movies. They're worthwhile dusting them off and bringing them to the notice of young guys who may never have seen them. They are good stories and they're fun.
So guys,
anyway, we'll see what happens.
As I said before, we'll try to bring as much old movies as well as new stuff in.
A mixture, a plethora of good, interesting things for you to listen to and hopefully go and watch and enjoy.
So thanks for listening to this podcast, everyone. Be sure to check it out, the Ghost Breakers, and let us know in the comments what you guys think of that movie. All right, thanks for listening to everyone. This is Sarah Stephenson.
And Moral.
Saying see you guys around on Boys and Ghouls. See you next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.